Hello, and welcome to the Dads of Adventure podcast. Today we're going to be talking about some of the changes that are happening in Walt Disney World. We've talked about those a little bit separately in individual episodes for the individual parks. Just wanted to go over them overall, so that way you can plan and plan ahead, so that what we're all about here is to have awesome life adventures and Disney adventures with your family. So we're about planning ahead for things that might be frustrating, might be a challenge, so that way they aren't a challenge, and you can start the day off with a positive Disney experience. So we'll get into that just a little more in just a moment. First, just want to remind everyone, if you're listening to this podcast, you can also view this on YouTube at the DreamsMagicAdventure channel. Please be sure to subscribe there. And you can also, if you're watching, you can please subscribe while you're there. But then you can also listen to this podcast format on your favorite podcast app. And we are at Dads of Adventure on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And then please join us at dadsofadventure.com, where you can sign up for our membership, where you can meet and talk to other positive Disney dads, and also have some great materials. We're putting those together to make sure you have a positive park experience as well. So again, today we are focusing on the return to the parks and the different measures that are in place right now that you may need to be aware of. So first topic of the day, we're going to talk about the pre-planning side of things. So right now, for pre-planning, there are some things you need to think about when you're planning your trip, whether you're a pass holder and you're in the local area or within driving distance, or you're getting tickets, or planning a larger trip for yourself or your family or a larger group of people. That's there's different considerations to take into place, and we can't cover all of those because some of those are constantly changing. But we'll try to cover the things that are going on right now, and that are kind of evolving. So be sure to check on what is happening at that particular moment. And this is where I would definitely, in the pre-planning phase, is definitely where I would recommend utilizing a travel agent, because they're going to know all the up-to-date information, so they can help you plan your trip accordingly. So pre-planning. So the first thing you need to know is how Disney is planning things for like hotels and for the park opening. So for the hotels side of things, there are limited hotels at the moment, and resorts that are open. So again, definitely recommend a travel agent for that. If you don't have a travel agent, Mackenzie at Perfect Story Travel is a great place to start. But whoever your travel agent is, just work with them, and they'll have the most up-to-date information on everything that's going on. But right now, as we're recording this, there's probably like half of the moderate resorts are open. Some of the deluxe resorts are open. Some of the deluxe resorts are being occupied right now by different sports teams, because some of the sports leagues have agreed to come to Disney in one centralized place to do their tournaments and things like that. So we have soccer and basketball, just all sorts of things going on there. So some of those are taken up, even like the Swan and Dolphin are taken up with that. But there's still lots of opportunities. A lot of the DVC resorts are open, and you just have to check to see what's open at that particular time. And a lot of those again will be opening up as those tournaments complete, and there will be additional ones opening up as well, as they figure out their plans and plan for future capacity. So that is another kind of piece of things, is the capacity. Before we do that, you just want to go over some procedures of the hotel. So when you're in a Disney resort, they have tried to make it a little bit more touch-free, people-free experience. So unless you have a specific issue that you need to deal with, you can use online check-in. It's very important to have the My Disney Experience app downloaded, because that's where you're going to be utilizing most of the things that you're doing. So you can do online check-in, and then you can also, as we speak, they are still providing magic bands, but that will go away starting January of 2021. So there is, you can also use there's a part of the My Disney Experience that you can use as your hotel key through Bluetooth. So you can enable that. You need to go into your app and be able to do that. So, but that is also available before magic bands are not distributed. Magic bands aren't going away. They're just not getting automatically sent to you, but you can purchase them to continue the RFID experience throughout the parks. And so that is kind of a little bit about the check-in procedures and everything like that. As we move through some of the other items, you want to make sure that and they've had different variations of this, so you're gonna have to check. There's different holds they've had on like how many tickets they're selling, to people that are at the resorts, and also just people that are coming in for the day, and purchasing one-off tickets. So you'll want to check to see what this current situation is on that. Also, getting a ticket does not guarantee you that you'll get into the park. So that's one thing to consider. That's a really strange concept, but it does not guarantee that you're going to get into the park. So let's talk a little bit about the Park Pass system. So the Park Pass system, there's, and this could totally change, but right now there's a little bit more priority given to guests that have a resort stay booked, and then folks that have like day tickets, and then pass holders. So there's limited availability. Again, there's some being reserved for resort guests, because if they're coming to the resort, they want to make sure that they're able to get into the parks and have those experiences. Now, sometimes in that system, again, it's through My Disney Experience. You can do that on the app or through the website. So you can reserve those park passes. You can only reserve up to 3 park passes at the moment. That may change for pass holders. If you have a stay and you're also a pass holder, there's a few more that you can do, but again, that may change as well. But basically, normally you can have up to 3, and then you get your next one there, which they might change that tomorrow. But so check on the current situation. But there's no park hopping, and the park hours are reduced. So it's Magic Kingdom. It's not a sun up to sundown or way past sundown time right now. The hours have been reduced. They'll be reduced a little bit more as school gets started. So that is something to keep into consideration. I'd say that like Animal Kingdom is similar to hours that it used to be, because it used to not be open at night, and used to close fairly early. So that is fairly similar, but you might be surprised at some of the hours when you're going to like Epcot or Magic Kingdom. Hollywood Studios is somewhat similar to what it would be kind of in the mid-season there, but there are even some hours shortened amongst those times as well. So keep that in mind when you're planning. Make sure you know what the park hours are for that time, and that could change too. So just you want to set your expectations there that you're not gonna have like all that time in the park. Now we'll get to talking about the parks because the parks are different. There's no fast passes right now, so that actually helps with things because there's not already that built up. People aren't making fast passes for smaller things that they would normally wait in line for. So waiting in line is not a bad experience at the moment. The only thing that has a pass right now is Rise of the Resistance, which is done through boarding groups. So we'll go over that a little bit more, but because that's constantly changing too. But that those are all the things you need to take into account when you're doing that. Make sure you have a park pass, or you will not be able to enter the gates. You can't just show up that day with a ticket. You have to have a reservation for that park, and that one park only for that day. So that is a little bit more about the park pass system. And again, reserving for the resorts. And now we're going to head into the parks. So first we'll talk about transportation. So transportation, they've done some modifications to all the different forms of transportation in order to make sure that social distancing can be observed. And they may change some of those things as park capacity goes up. Right now, park capacity is fairly low, so there's not really a problem. So we'll see what happens as it goes. But right now, like on the buses, there are plexiglass shields in between specific seating areas, and those seating areas are spread out amongst the bus. So that's the buses. This Skyliner, you're more likely to get your own car. There, for the monorail, they have like a not describing it well, but like a sheet in between the front section and the back section of the monorail, and they're not putting as many people on the monorail in those different sections. Again, we'll see how that works out and what policies change once there is more park capacity and more need for that transportation. And then on the boats, like the Friendships, going between Hollywood Studios and Epcot, and transporting you through like where the boardwalk and Beach Club, Yacht Club, Swan and Dolphin, as those begin to open up, those have certain seating on them. Same thing for the Magic Kingdom Loop boats. They have seating which allows you to be certain distances apart. So there's again, as we get further capacity, that may become more of an issue. So you may need to plan on waiting a little bit longer to get on some of those forms of transportation. At the moment, it doesn't seem to be an issue, and is actually a little bit better with the lower capacity that we have at the moment. So that is most of the transportation. There's not like minivans are not running right now, but I'm sure they'll try to get back to that as soon as they can. Once they figure out, how to do that, or more restrictions are lifted. But right now, you wouldn't want to plan on, minivans at the moment. So that is the end of the transportation section. Procedures heading into the park. So everything from when you get to the park to getting through the gate. So if you're driving, one thing to consider is the parking procedures. If you are a pass holder, you get free parking. If you're staying at a resort, you get free parking. For the resort guests, that will be on your Magic Band. For pass holders, you will need your Magic Band and a form of ID, so make sure you have that ready. One thing that has been kind of variable, depending on who we've gotten, is the getting into the gate. There's they may take your band and touch it. So, for some people that would be a problem. So just, make sure you have like some hand sanitizer or something like that to, sanitize that if that is a problem for you. And, make sure, and they may take your ID too. So to, hold it up to see what it is. So they may be handling that, and there's, however many cars, coming through. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, the parking procedures have been fairly standard. They also will scan to make sure that you have a park pass for the day. So that, to make sure that, once you get past that gate, that you can actually get into the park that you're heading to. So that's something to keep in mind. The parking, and, they may change again as they increase capacity. It's been pretty good. There's been a few different methods of social distance parking. For the traditional way of parking is they have a double row of cars, so you have a front and a back, and then what they will do is park the whole row all the way over to in the front, and then they'll start parking the back. So things to consider for that are, if you have a stroller in the back of your car, if you're in the front, you need to make sure you get it out quickly and move it to the front. That's normally the first thing that I do. That way I'm not frustrated by them telling me to move and all that stuff. So you don't want to, so you want to plan ahead for that. But they've done a few different things. So, I've seen where they've parked all the rows, but then they leave a spot in between each one. And then they'll park the front, and then they come back and park the back. But I've also seen where they've parked the front and back at the same time. So if you have a stroller, there may be some challenges there. I know I had one where, there was a car very close to me, so I was in the front, so I just jumped out real quick and, asked if they could back up just a little bit, for their sake too, so I didn't, if I lost control of getting the stroller out of the car, because I have a big stroller, that, it wouldn't damage their vehicle, and they were totally fine with it. So you just gotta, kind of plan ahead and think about those things and not get upset about them. So they were parking every other row, but they parked the front and the back at the same time. And if I was the second person coming in, I might have some problems with that because my stroller won't go around. So you just got to kind of plan for that too, as well. That might be something you need to drag the stroller to the front. If it doesn't fit between cars, it might just be my stroller that doesn't fit between the cars. I don't know. So those are things that you may want to plan for. There are no trams in the parking lot, so keep that in mind. If you normally use the trams or need them, they are not there. There is, accessible parking that is available. So keep that in mind. Right now, preferred parking, there is still preferred parking, but as of the recording of this, you're getting a decent parking spot. So unless you really, really want that front spot, which there may be reasons for that too, and that's fine. That's fine if you do. That is available too, but just want to let you know that. but don't be frustrated if you purchase preferred parking and it's really not that much farther up than where everybody else is parking. Things to keep in mind on the transportation. You will be coming through security and things like that. Regardless of whatever transportation form you get off of. Security procedures are a little bit different right now, and some of those things for the better. So they are doing the temperature screenings. So there's folks that are from one of the local health companies that are and they're very good about it. Like I've been very impressed with how they there's lots of signage that tells you what's going on as you're going. You may ignore it, but if you read it, then you're prepared for everything. And different procedures may change from time to time, so be sure you're reading those signs. They space them out pretty well so that you can read them as you're coming in, so you can know what to expect. But they'll do the temperature screening. It's just scanning your forehead. So if you have a hat, they may ask you to lift that up. So it may be helpful to, if you have a hat, to not have that on yet, or be ready to move that if you need to. They will ask, is it okay? Are you ready to be scanned for like your kids? Some do that, some don't. So I wouldn't expect that as a thing, but I found that they seem to be really cognizant that kids might be a little freaked out by that. So trying to accommodate that. Don't know if they will as park attendance increases and they need to move people through faster, but they're very attentive to that. There's a little area, I guess, where if it is a challenge, they have an area off to the side, so nobody's hopefully embarrassed if there's an issue. But if you have a temperature, you're not probably going to get into the park. And they may change that temperature from time to time, so I'm not going to state a certain one, but it's a higher. It's not just like 98.7 doesn't get you in, but you want to keep in mind of those things. And I've had seen questions of like, will the Florida heat make your temperature too high? Probably if you don't have this is probably if you don't have a fever, and I'm not a medical doctor, then you probably won't get that hot that it's going to affect you, but I can't guarantee that. But just in general, something probably not about 80, 99, 99%, I don't know what, not something you need to worry about. But that part is good. Then the new scanning procedures, and they're kind of implementing these across the park. So depending on how you come in, if you come in by a boat, it might be like the normal security procedures. And like if you have a stroller, they'll ask you to push that up. One park asked, and this was the first time I've had this happen, so I don't know if this is a new procedure or if this is something that was just a one-off, but they did ask my kids if they could walk to get out and walk through the scanner. I've never had them have to do that. Normally they can stay in the stroller, so I don't know if that's a new procedure or not, but was asked to do that. Normally we try to keep them in the stroller through the gate, so if your kids have a problem with that, you might just want to talk to them about that, and nicely, so that but they may still ask you to take them out, so just be prepared for that. Prepare your kids for that. You may have to get out of the stroller if they're not used to doing that, if that's potentially going to cause a problem. Prepare them for that, so that way you can have the most positive experience possible going through that security line. So that they're if you're going to like Magic Kingdom, they're going to on the monorail, they're going to do that security check before you get on the monorail, so you don't have to worry about that when you get to the park. If you're coming on a bus, you'll do it at the park. If you're coming on a boat, you'll do it at the park. But again, the main security lines, they really have been trying to implement a new technology, and there are some of those at Disney Springs as well, so keep that in mind. but it's a technology that actually scans your bag as you're going through too. So you don't have to. So there's not as much of the rifling through the bag check, but that could be something they do on a one-off basis if that system is down or it's not working properly, or again, that's probably going to be the system that you're looking at, potentially at the resorts before you get on a monorail, or when you come in on the boat, because they haven't implemented that everywhere yet. So that system, keep in mind that system may still be in play, but as you're coming through the main security lines through most of the parks, they have a new security that scans your bag as you go through, so you don't necessarily have to do a separate bag check, and everybody is going through the security gate. So it's not like a one-off, every few people, they grab a couple people as a sample. Everybody goes through that security gate, just like you would at an airport. So everybody's going through that. Now the good part of that, again, is it scans that stuff. There are some things that potentially set it off, and they'll normally try to warn you ahead of time so that you can set those things in a bin. Now, keep in mind that bin is for everybody, so they're not, necessarily sanitizing that in between. So if you're, worried about that, you need to be prepared for that and be able to sanitize the items. But like portable chargers, like a fuel rod for your phone, I believe phones, some metal type items and things like that. They may ask you to take out of your bag, but you just put them in the, as you pass through. Similar to, again, an airport security checkpoint. But one of the key things definitely is like we have an SLR camera that will definitely set it off because it looks kind of weird in the thing. So that is, something that you want to take out of your bag if you have a bigger camera or any camera. That may set it off. So go ahead and take that out ahead of time. Plan for that. It'll be good. On strollers, they still need to look, underneath. And if you have a popcorn bucket, take the lid off so they can see inside it, so they don't have to touch your popcorn bucket. If you the top canopy needs to be open, so just have all those things open and ready in case you need to take those out. But for the most part, the bags can go through. There may be some exceptions, so just be prepared that you may get taken off to the side, and they do individual screenings, so they'll ask you to take some of those things out of your bag, and they may check through them. So there's still occasionally that, but there's a lot less of it. So I think it's totally better. I'll take that on occasion rather than having to go through that whole procedure every time. That is some of the new security procedures as you're going through the gate. Right now, as we're recording this, they're not doing fingerprints. So you don't need to be worried about that. You can just scan your bands as you're going through, or if you have an annual pass card or a ticket, you can scan those on the podium going through. So prepare your kids for that. If that's something that they like to do, just make sure they're ready to do it. There's not like super long lines right now to get in the park, unless like you're there right when it opens, and even then, probably not that bad. So there's not as much issue with taking a little bit of extra time to do that. But if you're wanting to get right in there, be sure to plan for that. So that is the portion talking about getting through the gates. It's a little, some things that may be more challenging. There's some things that are better and less challenging. And again, all those things could change at any time. So, check to see what the current things are, but that's what we're seeing at the moment here. So for the next section, we're going to talk about, what happens after the gate. Now, I should have mentioned too, as you're coming in the gate, the masks are required at all parks and Disney Springs and in the resorts as you're walking around. So make sure you have your appropriate mask there. There's not going to be masks available to purchase before the gates, so you can't, while they do have Disney masks there in the gift shops, you will need a mask to get through the gates to get to that point. They may change that at some point, but the masks are required all the way through. Everything that you're doing. You can't take them off like on the transportation or anything like that. They're required to be on at all times for the most part, and we'll talk about the exceptions for that. And pretty much all ages of kids will need masks as well. So, plan for that. Unless it's an infant, but that, and I believe up to 2. But if they are 2, then they are supposed to be wearing a mask. So keep that in mind. It needs to cover your whole face. There are certain restrictions. They keep changing those a little bit, so check on what those are. But before, a lot of people were wearing the gaiters, and those are not accepted. You have to wear a mask that's held on your face. They will ask you to, if it falls below your nose, to pull it up above your nose, to give you an idea of that. Let's talk a little bit about the masks that are available in the Disney parks. They're coming out with more, so I think they're improving upon them as they go, and the different designs and everything. At first it was mainly like characters and things like that, but they are coming out with ones that are like Haunted Mansion themed and stuff like that. And they are they were giving a discount to buy multiple ones, and that discount is no longer. Also, you cannot use discounts on masks. So if you have like a park pass holder discount, DVC discount, things like that, believe all the discounts are not available on the masks. And that might change later, but one of the things to keep in mind about those masks too is that they run small. So like for my 5 and 6 year old boys, they have a medium. I'm not, unless your child's very small, the small is going to be very small. The large is not large enough for my face. They do have some extra larges, but I haven't seen any of those in the parks, in the shops that I've been going in. So I think those may show up a little bit. Those may potentially show up, when there's less demand for those, because I know a lot of people are wanting those. But the extra larges that they didn't have, initially, I believe those might be available online, so you may want to plan ahead if you need that. They are soft covered bands, so that's good, but they're a little bit thicker. So I think they were comfortable, but they are a little bit thicker than some of the other masks there. So that's what I'll say about those. But you can find them in a number of shops. Don't expect that you're going to find your particular one, because they might be out of one design or another and such. So that is something to keep in mind. Also, inside the parks, going through the shops, they do have social distancing in the lines, and they ask you to social distance. They have people at the doors counting numbers coming in and out. I've never had to wait to get into a shop yet. That may be coming as if they increase capacity, but so far I haven't had to wait to get into a shop because of a capacity thing. You really have to self-police when you're in there. That's one of the self-policing areas. So keep that in mind, that when you're in the shops. I think as a general rule, you want to try to not touch anything. You can't try anything on at the moment. So that is something to keep in mind. And I mentioned there aren't discounts for masks. Other discounts are still applying accordingly, but they may be different from shop to shop. So you'll want to keep that in mind. there was a larger discount for pass holders for a little bit, and that is now done. So it might come back. We don't know. But again, check before you go so you aren't disappointed when you get there. All right. So within the parks, we're also going to talk about some of the entertainment. So entertainment is a little bit different. There's no fireworks as of right now. There's no like shows that would have big gatherings like larger parades, and no like projection shows and things like that on the castle or at Hollywood Studios. There are still some of the stage shows, and they're figuring those out as they go. But yeah, I think proximity of people that are acting is a challenge in some cases. So they're working those things out. May not see some of those things come back for a while, but there are still some shows that are going on, but not like fireworks or big shows. And we recently found out that the Rivers of Light show is at Animal Kingdom is just not going to be happening anymore. So I'm not sure if they're going to replace it in the future or not, but it's not there. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for that big bang at the end of the day, those things are not there. So you want to set your expectations accordingly, set your children's expectations accordingly for that. But they have added some interesting things that I think are, some of those are improvements, and some of those are just kind of, they wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this, and I kind of like them a little bit better. So we'll see how we go through those. But one of those things is how characters meet and greet. So instead of waiting in a line to meet characters, there's some that are up in like higher locations where people can't get to them, but you can see them. You can kind of position yourself to take a picture with them still. They're really accommodating to that. I feel like the characters have been great about like waving to your children. Mine was like dancing to the music that was going on, and they started dancing with them. So they're doing a lot to really, and don't set your expectations to that, because you don't want to be disappointed. But I feel like they are trying to kids and also parents know that, hey, we see you, and to make that special engagement, even though they can't be one-on-one in a normal character meet and greet situation. So they've been really creative with that. I think that's been awesome. They're doing, instead of parades, they're doing these cavalcades throughout the day. So it's like a one float, or maybe like a horse. And in Hollywood Studios, they're doing, they got like actual vehicles that have like, there's one for Disney Junior characters, there's one for Pixar characters. So they're adding those in. There's even a couple in Epcot. So and again, they may change these, they may take some of these away if they're not popular, or they are trying to balance the budget that they have. Some of these things may go away, but for right now, in all of the parks, there's some form of that. In Animal Kingdom, they had pontoon boats where the characters would go around on the different waterways, so you could see them from there. And just they're getting creative with it, so keep that in mind. The characters that used to go through Galaxy's Edge, you may see Chewie like up on a stage somewhere, or stormtroopers or something. So they're getting creative, trying to still bring that Disney magic. And I think it's cool because it brings the park's going on this normal day. It's magical anyway in many sense. And then all of a sudden the music starts, parade comes through. The idea is that nobody has time to like super gather. in a big group, where you'd be super close together, and then it's done, and then you move on with your park day. So you don't have to wait. You have to plan like an hour of your park day to find a parade spot or a fireworks spot. It's quick entertainment, and then it's on with your day, and it's throughout the day too. So you don't have to plan for that one time. They aren't telling us what time, so that is a little challenging if you want to see one specific thing, but they're kind of throughout the day. So I would set my expectations that, hey, you may catch these throughout the day. You may not catch the specific one you want, so don't plan on that. Same thing with the characters, because they're not saying when they're coming out because they don't want people to gather around waiting for them, is the idea. So, but I do think that's bringing a great, bit of magic to the parks and, to the experience that's going on right now. So they're definitely trying to keep that in mind. So other things to keep in mind for the characters, there's only a couple of character dining experiences. So we'll jump into that in a moment. But the first we'll talk a little bit about cast members. Just want to mention, the more encouragement you can give to the cast members, the more encouragement they can give back to you. They've been really great about, they've got like little paddles with Mickey smiles on them since they're wearing masks. A lot of them are wearing like face shields that they're, getting more or less, closer than 6 feet to either each other or potentially in like a queue for a ride or something like that. So that is, something to keep in mind. And the, again, just, the more you can encourage them, say thank you for being here, the more they will appreciate that and be able to give that energy back to you and every other guest in the park, which they've been really good at doing. Awesome. Bravo to the cast members for, just all the energy that they're putting into making people feel welcome, and positive in light of different circumstances. So it's different, but it's good, I think. So that's the cast members. Attractions, so here, looking at the attractions, there's different things to consider. Not all attractions are available, not all shows are available, but on the attractions, they're in every queue. So there's not fast passes. Rise of the Resistance is the only one where you can get like a reservation ahead of time through their boarding group system. So for the boarding group system, that's kind of changing regularly. Before, you had to line up like really early at Hollywood Studios, and if you didn't get something at that point, you were done for the day. You didn't have a boarding group. Now there are a couple times throughout the day, so they're doing it like at park opening, but you can get into the park earlier. You do still have to be in the park. They're constantly refining the system, so it might be a little bit different, when you're actually doing it. But they've done a really good job at making sure that you have a couple opportunities. So it was like 3 opportunities throughout the day, and then it's 2 opportunities with the park hours being cut. I don't know if it's going to go back to 1 opportunity, but you do it through your My Disney Experience app. You look for the boarding groups, and they'll kind of announce it too. But you need to keep an eye on the times, and you may not get it because there have been some challenges with the attraction, right now, in terms of the just some of the components of it not being working, so they may shut down throughout the day. So they have really limited capacity on it as of this time. Might change, but they're going to adjust things accordingly to try and make sure that if they give you a boarding group that you're going to be able to get on. And that may not happen too. If you get a boarding group, it's not a guarantee that you're getting on the ride, because the ride may go down, may not be available. So, just keep that in mind. There is fairly limited capacity, so be ready at those times. And some of the tips are to use cellular instead of the park Wi-Fi. Make sure that you're just ready to go and have everybody linked in to your Disney experience so you can check them all at once. They did add a recent update, and again, they're refining this process. They did add a recent update where if you're in the parks, that recognizes that already as groups in your party, so you don't have to keep selecting them. But that's going to make everybody else faster too. So it's not necessarily an advantage, but it is a something that's helpful, I guess, to everybody. And then in general, for every other attraction, there are no fast passes. So you have the line queues, which is kind of neat because normally and the line queues are a little bit different. So they plan for everybody to be 6 feet apart, which is not the normal case when you're standing in the line. So some of the lines may be out, in the sun, and some of them may be extended. It may look really, really long when they're really not. It's hard to trust the. One thing I would say is it's hard to trust the wait times right now. So if you want to go on something, you may just plan on going on it, and again, longer times may not be as long, especially on attractions that don't have like a super long wait time. But they are doing additional cleanings in between rides, not all the time. So again, keep in mind, you're going to be on there after somebody else has been on there. But they are doing additional cleanings and things like that, so they may shut the ride down for a little bit to do that, so the ride line may not move for a little bit. So there's great fluctuations in wait times because of that. They do have markings on the ground, so you know where you're supposed to stand. So and sometimes it may not be just 6 feet apart, because there may be sections of the ride queue and sometimes it's not going to be just 6 feet apart, because there may be sections of the ride queue that you're not able to get people 6 feet apart as you're going around the turn or something like that. So just pay attention to them and stop at the one before the next person, because it may be like way back, especially if it's like stairs or the ride, the queue doubles back on itself. They do have a lot of plexiglass on the queues, so to separate people, but there is some area of self-policing that you've got to do too. Watch on the ground. They normally have it's not explained, but there's like little yellow markings on the ground in some of the ride queues, and that shows you how far into the ride, where they can't social distance totally. They've measured. Okay, if you stay on this side of the yellow line on this wall, and you stay on the line in this wall, then you'll be 6 feet apart. So keep that in mind. You may get reminders of that, but that's something that's not necessarily explained. So you want to take that into account. One thing to note is that on all rides, you must keep your mask on. It's not something where you get on the ride and you can take it off. You are required to keep that mask on the attraction as well. Now, different attractions are handling this differently. There's a lot of plexiglass in between, and I think they've done an excellent job, or canopy drapes and things like that, like on the safari ride, and like Living with the Land. There's clear ones, so your ride view isn't obstructed. But it is hard, it might be hard to take pictures, so keep that in mind. I feel like they've done a good job at making it look as much like that's part of the attraction and you may not even notice it. Like when we went on Dinosaur, for instance, they had put plexiglass in between all of the rides, but it's so dark in there, and it kind of looks like a windshield. So you wouldn't have really, I didn't really think about it until I'm like, oh, this is new. So you may not even notice it unless you know about it. But some of the pre-ride shows are not going on, so and they may have redone the queue, so you're going through different parts of the queue that you may not have seen before. If you always use fast passes, you may get to see some of these extended queues that were put in, not super recently, but fairly recently, that have all these extra magic things. Some of them are turned off because they don't want people to gather there or touch things. Some of the touch points, but there are still things like in Peter Pan. There's all sorts of little magical touches that are in there. So just be patient with people if they're enjoying those things. You don't have to get there so quickly because there's not going to be a huge line in front of you. So just be patient with people if they're standing there enjoying it. You enjoy it too, and they may do like every other car depending on capacity. Some of the rides like Haunted Mansion already have those shields built in, so it just depends on the attraction. But they are making sure they have that. There's hand sanitizer normally, sometimes at the front of the ride, but definitely after the ride. One thing on the hand sanitizer stations, you need to put your hand under there and wait for a moment. And if someone puts their hand in right after that, you need to pull it out and put it back in, because it's going to come right at that point where you pull your hand out and then the hand sanitizer falls. So just give it a moment, and then you don't need to rush out because there's not, you don't need to do that right now. So that is most of the information for the attractions. For our next section, we're going to be talking about a little bit of just very kind of some miscellaneous things throughout the parks. So in regards to, there are some self-policing kind of areas, like when you're in general spaces and, again, shops, bathrooms. There's not like social distancing, especially in the bathrooms. There's not like somebody monitoring how many people are going to the bathrooms. That may change, but for right now, one of the things I'm trying to do is, find some of the larger bathrooms, to utilize, because they're, there's some great ones like I didn't even know about this one before. But as you go into the Dinoland USA area in Animal Kingdom, in Epcot, the Norway bathrooms, the bathrooms over by Soarin', the bathrooms if you're facing Spaceship Earth, the ones on the right, the ones on the left are okay, but the ones on the right seem to have bigger space. At Epcot, the ones in the American Pavilion are quite large, quite many stalls and everything. So there, would recommend that. Trying to go around the World Showcase and think of any others, but those are the main ones. Some less known bathrooms are the ones in the Imagination Pavilion, but sometimes those can be hit or miss. But those are kind of some of the Magic Kingdom. The ones in the front are always fairly large. Everybody likes the Tangled bathrooms near Small World. Those are fairly large, and I think those are the main ones that are available. Going down to like Frontierland, like near Splash Mountain, those aren't utilized as much unless you're going on Splash Mountain. So those are some other ones you can consider. Those are kind of the main ones. The Tomorrowland bathrooms that are behind the stage, kind of like there's a little Joffrey's. There's a couple Joffrey's, but there's one Joffrey's that is near the stage. So the ones behind there, those are a little bit bigger. That is Hollywood Studios, the ones in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, the ones that are available. I'm trying to think of some of the bigger ones that are there. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is the only one that's coming to mind at the moment. But anyway, bathrooms, that's a self-policing type area in terms of, spacing. So even if you don't believe in that necessarily, just it helps create a more positive experience for folks that are trying to, adhere to those regulations. Because, everybody has their rights, but, there are, just be cognizant of other people. Again, even if you don't feel that's necessary, other people may do so. Until this is all said and done, disrespect other people. One of the things that was better when it started, but then it's kind of been changing a little bit, is in the open spaces. You used to see a lot of like, okay, what's the straightest line from one place to another, and I'm going to go that way, regardless of where people are. And there were a bunch of people, so it didn't really matter. But be cognizant, take an extra few steps so you're not right next to somebody, and trying to go the closest route to the corner. Just take a few extra steps. People also have been a lot nicer, so that's been good. In terms of, people have been more patient. I think overall in this entire experience, people have been able to be more patient with each other and give grace, in different areas. So just keep that in mind, even as things go back to normal, whenever that is, hopefully sooner than later. But, that keep those things in mind, because that is, it's just made the experience better. People aren't frustrated. People don't have such high expectations that everything is going to be exactly how they want it. So, there may be some, but for the most part, people are gracious. People are, taking that extra bit of consideration for others, being kinder to others. So I love that. That's made the park experience more enjoyable as well. So keep that in mind. For social distancing too, there are relaxation areas where they have, some are outside, some are inside. Some of the, like Tomorrowland Terrace is one of those areas in Magic Kingdom. At Animal Kingdom, there's one in like the Pizza Safari. In Hollywood Studios, there's a little like outdoor area in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and the launch bay is one of those as well. I'm trying to think of the ones that are in Epcot, and I'm not coming across those at the moment, but there's a lot of places in Epcot to just, go in and be at anyway. There are these relaxation areas. These are areas where you can take off your mask. Oh, Magic Kingdom, also the Storybook Circus. There's one where they normally do the meet and greets for the Great Goofini. So that is available. Some of the places have tables, some of them don't. Just depends on where they are. And you can also take your mask off when you are eating and seated. Put it back on when you're moving around, a restaurant. But that is an area to have some rest from the masks if you need it. Also plan on maybe a few masks when you go, because it is Florida. It does get hot regardless of the season. There's probably going to be some hot point during the day. You may want a few masks for the day. definitely for the week if you're there for a week. So keep that in mind as well. And the next, one more thing, there are other things that they're social distancing, like Wilderness Explorers is still going on in Animal Kingdom, where you can get your booklet, your Wilderness Explorer booklet. They explain what you need to do, and then you go get badges and stickers throughout little points where they talk to you about different nature items and things like that. That is still available. Things like that are, they're finding ways to make those things happen. So I think as we go on here, they're going to continue to find ways to make things happen. Which leads me into the next section, which is, talking about dining. So dining is a little bit different right now. And dining, there's a few topics to cover on dining. So we'll start with, so we don't forget it, character dining. There's not a lot of character dining. I think they're probably trying to add that as we go. It's not going to be the same, though, as if you've experienced it before. They're not going to come to your table and pose directly with you for the characters. They're going to be like roaming around the restaurant. So right now, as we record this, and they might be adding additional ones, but as they figure out how to do it, at the Garden Grill in Epcot in the Land Pavilion, that is a character meet and greet. You get Farmer Mickey, which is one of my favorite ones anyway. So that's a plus. And then Topolino's Terrace over at the Riviera. That is also a character dining experience, and basically they're dancing, they're doing their thing, but they're not going to come close to you or your table, so you can get a quick shot with them. They do try to get around to different areas so that they are visible and you can get pictures with them. So they are trying to do that, but it's just a different experience. So you just got to expect something different. I think it's still awesome being able to see them from afar. I haven't done one myself, but so if you are wanting that experience and expecting that, you may choose a different experience, because it's not gonna be exactly what it was before at the moment. Also for dining, not everything is open right now as they try to figure out things and how they can open, and they aren't probably going to open everything until it gets a little bit more capacity, because they want to conserve some of those efforts there. For like quick service restaurants, even like Satuli Canteen and ones that you would go inside for, those are you order through the app. So it's very important to have the phone and you order through the app, and you get there and you tell them that you're there, and then you don't go into the space until it says that your order is ready, and then you proceed into the space. But the cast members will be there; they'll be checking that. So just be sure to wait. Some areas are warmer than others. It'll tell you in the app, so you can wait pretty much anywhere. But like out in front of Satuli Canteen can get hot, so keep that in mind. If you need to like exit a quick service area, there's an exit, and then you may have to come around. Like for Satuli Canteen, you can exit towards the bathrooms, like if you need to go to the bathroom, but then you've got to come all the way around to get back in. That same point, and tell them that you had to go to the bathroom. They let you back in. So they have lines, and kind of like the shops, they have lines set aside for social distancing. The tables are social distance. Once you are seated, then you can take off your mask, but as you're moving around, you want to put that back on. They changed the plasticware, where it's a machine that has like knife, spoon, fork sticking out, like just the end of it, so you're the only one touching it. So it's not like that thing where you have to hit the button and it comes out, or big pile, big cups full of silverware. It's these machines, and you pull it out, and that is the only one. So you're the only one to touch it. I think it's ingenious. It's pretty cool. I think they're more they're sturdier too. So bonus there. For drinks, there are some places that have refills. So if you are in a place that has refills, like Sotuli Canteen, or Backlot Express, they for that there'll be a cast member there that will get you a new cup. So you just kind of bring your cup and say, "Hey, I need a refill," and then they get you a new cup. So refills are still there. One important thing is free ice water is still available at the places that are open. You just need to ask for it. Some places you can't go in until you have your order, but if you tell them you want ice water, like Sunshine Seasons in the Land Pavilion, you can go in there and then they have water and you grab it and off you go. So that is a little bit different experience there too. I think it's improved. You can order on the app, so you don't have to, you're not standing there in front of it like, okay, what am I going to order now? So I think it's an improved experience there. So that is kind of like the quick service. There are like some modified things in terms of, there's not like a Toppins bar at Backlot Express or the my goodness, I can't remember it. The place in Frontierland that everybody likes that has fajitas. I don't know what I'm blanking on that at the moment, but that place, any other place like Tomorrowland, not Tomorrowland Terrace, but Cosmic Rays that would have a toppings bar. There's not like a toppings bar. You can ask for some of the places. You can ask for toppings, and they'll have them in little cups. So you just ask for those ahead of time. Otherwise, you have to go back and get them. But they're not going to be in the toppings bar. They basically have like all the nozzles taken off of the drink machines. So you have to again go to the cast member, and they'll get you your refill and a new cup. So that is good. You can get free waters, and I think those are the main things about the quick service areas. Not all of them are open, so keep that in mind. And a lot of the kiosks, like small window shops, are not open. They do have. Like for snacks, let's talk about snacks. For snacks, they do have like popcorn. Some popcorn stands are open, some are not. There's like only one in Animal Kingdom, I believe, unless they've changed that. Near Everest. So if you're a popcorn family where you like to get your bucket refilled, what they're doing right now is they're giving you just a new popcorn, as if you were buying regular popcorn without a bucket. So that you can refill your own bucket. Now, there's benefits on both sides of that. On occasion, and don't expect this because this may not be the thing, that I have seen where they're giving like two, because one for the smaller popcorn holders, because they don't necessarily hold a full bucket of popcorn, but some they're giving one. So plan on one. If you get two, extra magic. Don't plan on two, because then you'll be disappointed if you get one. So there you go. Hollywood Studios, and this may change, but they were using like the square popcorn buckets that say popcorn on them. Those are a little bit more than a bucket, so you get even a better value there. Definitely recommend that first popcorn stand near Brown Derby as you're coming up, heading towards the Chinese Theater. That first one, that is I think the best popcorn stand in all of Walt Disney World, definitely in Hollywood Studios. But they're accommodating for those things. So again, and right now they have like little Mary Blair inspired cups and popcorn things. So that is a bonus. A very very neat looking Mary Blair inspired. And if you don't know who Mary Blair is, think Small World, think the Grand Canyon Concourse um, in the Contemporary, the whole mural that's up on the wall there near the where the monorail is. That is Mary Blair inspired some of. She didn't necessarily wasn't necessarily a part of this, but some Mary Blair inspired things are inside of the Grand Fiesta Tour in Mexico as well. So think that, and think popcorn buckets related to that. Not buckets, but the things that they give you. So that is a lot of the snack stands. Again, some things may not be available. There are no dining plans right now, so this whole snack situation, they don't have near as many like Mickey bar stands open, things like that, because there's not as many people using their snack credits. So keep that in mind. Not everything may be available that you expect it to be. But I think they are trying to figure things out, because those are small spaces. They don't, they're trying to spread people out. So as they figure those things out, they're probably opening more as more capacity. They're opening more as more people come. Opening more than likely. But that's the snack situation. Tables, service dining. So we'll talk about this from a perspective of the parks and at the resorts. You can check in on the app, and then they'll let you know when your table is ready. So that way you have less, interactions that you have to have with everybody. Forgot to mention, plexiglass, at all of the, places where you're directly interacting with somebody to get something. There's plexiglass in between you and the cast member. So there's that extra bit too. Same thing in the shops. But anyway, table service. Again, you'll have to wait outside until your table is ready. So keep that in mind. There may be some limited places, like in Liberty Tree Tavern, they have reduced the amount of seating that's inside. So there's only a couple places to sit, and then everybody else has to wait outside once that capacity is reached. So plan ahead for that. If you're if I'm getting to the air condition, you may have to wait a few more moments. So find a good place to sit, but they'll let you know when your table is available, and then you'll be seated. And again, once you get inside the restaurant and seated, you can take off your masks and enjoy that experience. Most of the servers, will have a mask and potentially a face shield in front of the mask too, since they're having that closer interaction with you. Servers are being very patient. They're getting, one of the things that's kind of hit or miss is that if you're used to having an activity pack and crowns for your kids, a lot of restaurants don't have those. So bring those along if that's something that you need to entertain your kids. For other, I think some folks are, going to a tablet or something like that for a show. If you're doing that, make sure you bring headphones for your kids so you're not affecting other people's dining experiences, so that they can have a positive experience and you won't feel like you're being watched too. So it'll be a more positive experience for you. There are some interesting things that we've noticed as we've gone through some of the dining. So one key point is Liberty Tree Tavern, since they're all the tables are spread out, of course. Since they are spread out, they are also utilizing the Diamond Horseshoe as a seating area. So if you want the Liberty Tree Tavern experience, and they ask, they're trying to seat some people over there to make sure they can still run efficiently and whatnot. yeah, the Diamond Horseshoe is a neat space. So, depending on the person, that may be a bonus to be able to go sit over there, and because normally you don't have table service meals over there. But if you don't want that experience, be sure to let the cast member know, so that it may have to wait a little bit longer, but then you may be able to be seated at a different table. So don't let that additional seating, just tell them what you want. Sometimes they may not be able to accommodate it, so don't have the expectation that they will, but let them know what you want so that you can make sure you're not creating a negative experience for yourself, because you didn't speak up. Just speak up, and again, sometimes they may be able to accommodate things, sometimes they may not. You just have to pay attention to that, and you can create a more positive experience for yourself. Things like condiments and stuff like that, they may bring separately, so you may have to ask for those separately. Some are bringing them right away, so I like that. If they have like a special sauce for that place, it seems like they're bringing those. But do ask for those things. Ask if there's any special sauces if you haven't been there before, and they might bring those by. So just don't be afraid to ask, but also don't have the expectation that it's going to be exactly the same. Some places that were buffets, like the Wave of American Flavors, and the Contemporary is a table service restaurant right now. So if you're used to the buffet, it's different. Also, for table service meals, all of the menus are online. There's no physical menus, so you want to make sure your phone is charged and ready. And multiple people may want to have the app, so that way you're not having to pass around the phone to do that. But all the apps are on there. They are in different languages too, if you need that, so that's good. But we've had some great experiences in table service restaurants recently. So they're really are trying to accommodate and make sure you're having the best experience possible still. And we have enjoyed our experiences. So that kind of wraps up some of the dining experiences there. If a lot of the bars and things like that are not open, so keep that in mind. So that's a little bit different. I think that covers most things. One thing, like if there was there's more limited menus right now too. So if you remember something that you really want and that's the reason that you're going, make sure you look at the menu ahead of time, because it may not be there right now, because they've gone to very limited menus. Also, just another, festivals at Epcot. So, looking at festivals at Epcot, there may be some of the booths that are not open. If they're for efficiency or whatever reason, or they haven't figured out how they're, social distancing inside the booth. But there is social distancing in the line to get there. One of the cool things at Epcot is they have opened up there's an area that's between, I think, the UK and France, or UK and Canada, I believe. Called World Showplace. So it's normally a big convention center area that houses different events and things like that, but they have part of it in there. So that's an air conditioned section where you can get there's 2 or 3 booths. There was even like a and this is for the Food and Wine Festival, but there was even like a booth where you could sample maple syrup. I don't know if that's going to be there all the time, but it's there. There's entertainment in there. They had someone playing, piano versions of lots of famous Disney songs, which I love. That is like the best for me. But they had lots of food places in there, and there were some tables where you could sit down, so you had to grab those if you wanted those. But then there's also cafe tables, and you can take off your mask, and there's a little there's some space to be there. There's bathrooms in there, air conditioning. So if you need to take a break, but still want to eat, food and wine, that is a great place to go. Also for entertainment, in the American Gardens Theater, in the American Pavilion, they have rotating shows, and I don't know if they'll change this, of the Jamators, and the mariachi band, and I'm going to get the name wrong, so I'm not going to say it, but the mariachi band plays there, so adds a bit of music and excitement, live music to the area. I love the Jamators. If you love dad jokes, check out the Jamators. They were doing a rap on, I'll just say, Walk This Way. It was an actual walk. Yeah, and then I won't spoil the rest of it, but they're great. Normally they're out and about in the park. Normally the mariachi band is over in Mexico, but they are there, and there's not that many people in there, so some folks are using that as a place to take a break. But you also need to consider that when that show is over, even if there's not anybody else in the theater or waiting to get into the theater, they are going to clear everybody out because they will sanitize everything and then let people back in for the next show. But it's pretty, normally there's something going on over there, so that's cool too that they're doing that. But also for food and wine, I think that's the main things for food and wine. But just keeping in mind that you need to be stationary when you're walking, when you're eating, and when you have your mask off. They don't want people walking around. So you may be asked by a cast member, if you're walking around with and eating or drinking at the same time, to find a stationary spot to do so, or put your mask back on. So keep that in mind. That way you're not getting upset about that. Somebody asks you, because the rule at the moment is that you need to be stationary while you're eating with your your mask off. And you need to be away from people. So they are trying to sanitize some of those tables. Some may not be though, because they can only get around to them every so often. So that's another self-policing thing, or bring your own table wipes or hand sanitizer if you want to make sure that everything is getting done that way. Quick service restaurants, they're kind of definitely keeping an eye on those, like Stoolie Canteen, but there may be others where there's lots of seating all over the place, like Backlot Express has seating sprawled all over the place, so they may not catch it before the next person tries to sit there. So just keep that in mind. And I believe that covers most of the dining side of things, and most of what you'll be experiencing in the parks. Some kind of one-off things, when you're in an elevator, they will ask you to face away from people, or just be the only one in the elevator. One of the places I've seen is the Contemporary. There's only a few elevators there, so just be cognizant of that. If I want my own elevator, so that's what I do. I wait and I let other people in front of me in order to do that. So just be accommodating to other people, and don't try to force yourself in there. Follow those rules. You have to wear masks, when you're in a resort, in common areas, all those things. So just be accommodating to other people, and then they will be accommodating to you. So that's just key points there. Again, the park hours are a little bit different. So it is a little bit different, like leaving Magic Kingdom, not having watched a fireworks show. So, again, change your expectations for that. probably be changing here shortly, as the times change. And but leaving Magic Kingdom when it's light out and there's not a party afterward. There's not parties right now for the Halloween party. We'll have to see what happens with the Christmas party coming up here, but there's not parties right now. The special events like that, after hours, before hours, the villains event, all those things are not going on right now. So just keep that in mind as you're leaving the parks. It may not be the same experience that you're used to, and it may feel a little weird, but it is a different experience. But I think it's good. Again, it varies from place to place, but sometimes some areas can get more crowded than others. In Epcot, for instance, we like to go from Canada to Mexico, so we got there later in the day, and we started in Canada, but everybody that was coming from Mexico was kind of finishing their day when we were starting ours, so there was a congestion point there. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, especially if the ride is shut down, maybe a lot of people waiting for Rise of the Resistance, so that area maybe get a little congested. When the park opens, and then certain points in the day when people start coming in, probably a couple hours after the park opens, and those points in between where like people overlap, like your people who like to come later and your people who like to come earlier, those are kind of put together a little bit more right now. So there may be points in the day where it's a little more congested than others. Just keep that in mind, have patience. For the most part, you can still get on a lot of the attractions. Just watch throughout the day, even attractions that have long wait times. Some of them you might just have to get in line and wait. That's how it used to be. So that may be what you have to do. But for the most part, it's going to be less time normally than others. And so just, pay attention to things, do what you're supposed to do. Self-police yourself when there's times that you need to. And you can have a pretty magical day. Like we have really enjoyed our experiences. The little cavalcades again, have been great. Being able to get on the rides and see some of the queues that we haven't seen in a long time because we use fast passes has been great. We really haven't noticed too much difference in the park hours. We'll see as they shorten those a little bit more. But we haven't even utilized the full park hours. Maybe different if you're coming on a one-time trip. So again, prepare for that. But it's been a great experience so far. From our perspective, we're pass holders. We come for day trips. We utilize a good portion of the park hours, but we don't typically go from rope drop to the end of the day, but we will utilize the end of the day, and we normally plan something to relax at the end of the day, like a table service meal or something like that. So that's been a good way to end the day, especially if it if it's in the summer. It's got to be warm. So that's a good way to relax, and instead of being so tired when you're leaving the park, we're refreshed as we leave the park. So that again, it's an ending positive experience that we're having. So I think that covers it pretty well here. Again, things to expect when you're heading into the parks, and changes that you may not have expected otherwise. But we'll keep you updated as we find out more. But just want to give this quick overview of everything, kind of all the different things together as we've seen. And hope that's helpful in your trip, and having a positive Disney experience with your family. And so we'll go ahead and sign off here. Again, if you're listening to this, you can also go see this on YouTube in a video format at the DreamsMagicAdventure YouTube channel. Please subscribe there. If you're watching this, please subscribe before you head over and listen to this on your favorite podcast app. You can also find us at Dads of Adventure on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And so follow us there, and sign up for the newsletter and sign up for our membership, where you can have conversations with fellow positive Disney dads and help support the mission of Dads of Adventure, and just get further tips on things like this that help you have a more positive experience, help you plan for things that could be frustrating, so that they're not, and that you can start the day, move through the day, and end the day on a positive experience with your family. So with that, I'll say, go have an adventure with your family.